In recent weeks, as many of you know, some large U.S. financial institutions were hit by so-called distributed denial of service attacks. But even more alarming is an attack that happened 2 months ago, when a very sophisticated virus called Shamoon infected computers in the Saudi Arabian state oil company Aramco, replaced crucial systems files with an image of a burning U.S. flag. It virtually destroyed 30,000 computers. The most destructive scenarios involve cyber actors launching several attacks on our critical infrastructure at one time, in combination with a physical attack on our country. Attackers could also seek to disable or degrade critical military systems and communication networks. The collective result of these kinds of attacks could be a cyber Pearl Harbor.
How about cyber warfare?
We are constantly probed in the cyber world.
The source of the attacks cannot yet be confirmed.
North Korea is suspected of being behind it.
U.S. and South Korean government websites come under attack. Cyber warfare or no big deal?
North Korea has been preparing cyber warfare since the 1990s. This is one of the reasons North Korea is blamed for today's cyber attack.
North Korea has been using the internet for military purposes. The U.S. Defense Department has tracked back the records of which countries have visited various official U.S. websites. The results show that North Korea has visited those websites the most. Recently, North Korea condemned a U.S.-South Korea joint cyber exercise.
America's puppet state is involved in a joint cyber exercise led by the U.S. We have no patience for their provocative behavior, which attempts to invade North Korea.
The North Korean Special Military Force for Cyber Warfare is known to consist of hundreds of soldiers. Their duty is to freeze and interrupt websites of foreign military.
Countries will always want to know the secrets of others, including their own citizens. State-sponsored hacking is the new form of espionage, made easy because it can be done from thousands of miles away. Everyone is at risk, even from the smallest of countries.
You might be forgiven for wondering how a country which can't even generate enough electricity to light its own cities could possibly breach American government security. But somebody has done just that.
Investigators say the attacks have come from a botnet, a network of computers in homes and offices worldwide, perhaps yours or mine, which have become infected with a piece of malicious software. Someone's using that botnet to send millions of messages to US government sites, in effect jamming them. But
governments and criminals alike use hacking to eavesdrop and steal information. The hacktivists believe that the rights of the citizens outweigh the need for the government to know.
And affirming, Dr. Franklin, that such a Bill of Rights was not included in our Constitution through deliberate design.
And they will, most likely, next stir up suspicion. And accusation will follow close upon suspicion. The proofs, of course, to be connected in some future time. Some individuals to see instances of guilt where there is, at most, only honest error.
From the hacktivist standpoint, they think the leaders are destroying the rights of the people. What could possibly make them think this?
And that there is no such program. I'm having trouble understanding why you couldn't have basic discovery on that point without disclosure as to other surveillance that may or may not be taking place, because this seems to me to otherwise put us in the position of being in the trust us category. We don't do it, trust us, and you can't ask us about it.
Well, a couple of responses to that, Judge McEwen. First of all, if the court concludes, as we think it should, that this case is about the existence of a secret espionage relationship with AT&T, then the court has to dismiss under the CASA and the Tenet decisions. But even if the court gets beyond that, then it has to look at whether or not this case could be litigated. And I bring you back to my prior answer with respect to the denial of the existence of this alleged surveillance dragnet. The government would be put into a situation where it would have to prove the negative. And I think plaintiffs have made some discovery requests already in this case. And if I could just give you a sense of what they're seeking and what they therefore believe is necessary to prove.
Let me just ask you this question. You know, these are things that bother me. I mean, is it the government's position that when our country is engaged in a war, that the power of the executive when it comes to wiretapping is unchecked?
It is not, Your Honor. And that's why we're here today.
But what are the checks on it? If we're getting affidavits from folks in the executive branch and we have to take their word for it, what is the check?
Your Honor, this court plays an important role in evaluating the legitimacy of the government's assertion of the state secret's privilege. And of course,
how do we do that?
This administration also puts forward a false choice between the liberties we cherish and the security we provide. I will provide our intelligence and law enforcement agencies with the tools they need to track and take out the terrorists without undermining our Constitution and our freedom. That means no more illegal wiretapping of American citizens. No more national security letters to spy on citizens who are not suspected of a crime. No more tracking citizens who do nothing more than protest a misguided war. No more ignoring the law when it is inconvenient. That is not who we are. And it's not what is necessary to defeat the terrorists. The FISA court works. The separation of powers works. Our Constitution works. We will again set an example for the world that the law is not subject to the whims of stubborn rulers and that justice is not arbitrary. This administration acts like violating civil liberties is the way to enhance our security. It is not. There are no shortcuts to protecting America.
When it comes to telephone calls, every member of Congress has been briefed on this program. But I think it's important to recognize that you can't have 100% security and also then have 100% privacy and zero inconvenience. We're going to have to make some choices.
You keep using the word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
One of the things people are going to be most interested in trying to understand who you are and what you're thinking is there came some point in time when you crossed this line of thinking about being a whistleblower to making the choice to actually become a whistleblower. Walk people through that decision-making process.
When you're in positions of privileged access, like a systems administrator for these sort of intelligence community agencies, you're exposed to a lot more information on a broader scale than the average employee. And because of that, you see things that may be disturbing, but over the course of a normal person's career, you'd only see one or two of these instances. When you see everything, you see them on a more frequent basis. And you recognize that some of these things are actually abuses. And when you talk to people about them, in a place like this where this is the normal state of business, people tend not to take them very seriously and move on from them.
Hello, citizens of the world. We are anonymous. Dear brothers and sisters, now is the time to open your eyes. In a stunning move that has civil libertarians stuttering with disbelief, the U.S. Senate has just passed a bill that effectively ends the Bill of Rights in America. The National Defense Authorization Act is being called the most traitorous act ever witnessed in the Senate, and the language of the bill is cleverly designed to make you think it doesn't apply to Americans. But toward the end of the bill, it essentially says it can apply to Americans if we want it to. Bill summary and status. 112th Congress, 2011 to 2012, S. 1867. Latest title, National Defense Authorization Act 4. This bill, passed late last night in a 93-7 vote, declares the entire USA to be a battleground upon which U.S. military forces can operate with impunity, overriding posse comitatus and granting the military the unchecked power to arrest, detain, interrogate and even assassinate U.S. citizens with impunity. Even Wired magazine was outraged at this bill, reporting, Senate wants the military to lock you up without trial. The detention mandate to use indefinite military detention in terrorism cases isn't limited to foreigners. It's confusing, because two different sections of the bill seem to contradict each other. But in the judgment of the University of Texas Robert Chesney, a nonpartisan authority on military detention, U.S. citizens are included in the grant of detention authority. The passage of this law is nothing less than an outright declaration of war against the American people by the military-connected power league. If this is signed into law, it will shred the remaining tenets of the Bill of Rights and unleash upon America a total military dictatorship, complete with secret arrests, secret prisons, unlawful interrogations, indefinite detainment without ever being charged with a crime, the torture of Americans and even the legitimate assassination of U.S. citizens right here on American soil. If you have not yet woken up to the reality of the police state we've been warning you about, I hope you realize we are fast running out of time. Once this becomes law, you have no rights whatsoever in America, no due process, no First Amendment speech rights, no right to remain silent, nothing. The U.S. Senate does not want us to speak. I suspect even now orders are being shouted into telephones and men with guns will soon be on their way. Why? Because while the truncheon may be used in lieu of conversation, words will always retain their power. Words offer the means to meaning and for those who will listen, the enunciation of truth. And the truth is, there is something terribly wrong with this country, isn't there? Cruelty and injustice, intolerance and oppression. And where once you had the freedom to object, to think and speak as you saw fit, you now have censors and systems of surveillance coercing your conformity and soliciting your submission. How did this happen? Who's to blame? Well, certainly there are those who are more responsible than others, and they will be held accountable. But again, truth be told, if you're looking for the guilty, you need only look into a mirror. I know why you did it. I know you were afraid. Who wouldn't be? War, terror, disease. There were a myriad of problems which conspired to corrupt your reason and rob you of your common sense. Fear got the best of you, and in your panic, you turned to the now president in command, Barack Obama. He promised you order. He promised you peace. And all he demanded in return was your silent, obedient consent. More than 400 years ago, a great citizen wished to embed the 5th of November forever in our memory. His hope was to remind the world that fairness, justice, and freedom are more than words. They are perspectives. So if you've seen nothing, if the crimes of this government remain unknown to you, then I would suggest that you allow the 5th of November to pass unmarked. But if you see what I see, if you feel as I feel, and if you would seek as I seek, then I ask you to stand beside one another, 1 year from November 5th, 2011, outside the gates of every courthouse of every city demanding our rights. Together we stand against the injustice of our own government. We are anonymous. We are legion. United as one. Divided by zero. We do not forgive censorship. We do not forget oppression. U.S. Senate. Accept us.
Wikipedia describes Anonymous as a loosely associated international network of activists and hacktivists. A website associated with the group describes it as an internet gathering with a very loose and decentralized command structure that operates on ideas rather than directives. The question is, are they terrorists or freedom fighters? Are countries obligated to secure their citizens by any means possible? Whatever side you are on, both sides believe they are right.
We focus on all sorts of internet law, from free speech to privacy to copyright and fair use, and basically we fight for the user. We're doing a lot on NSA surveillance programs, domestic drones, also all sorts of free speech and transparency issues. The NSA revelations didn't really surprise us. We've actually been suing over this for about 6 years now. These are a lot of the same revelations that came out in 2005 and 2006 under Bush's warrantless wiretapping program.
A computer virus called Stuxnet was discovered lurking in the databanks of power plants, traffic control systems, and factories around the world. 20 times more complex than any previous virus code, it had an array of capabilities. Among them, the ability to turn up the pressure inside nuclear reactors or switch off oil pipelines. And Stuxnet could tell the system operators everything was normal.
The threats exist, whether created by our enemies or by our own hands. They have always existed. As always, it is up to us to stay vigilant against those that mean us harm while not harming the innocent and losing ourselves in the process.